screen, we've got this quite elaborate gag going on in that space.
There's a beat in the script and the production draft with there's like markers. It's all kind of like been.
That's the killers mocking a crime scene.
Oh, is that what it is? It's not.
Yes. That's part of the tableau.
We're not interested in a run-of-the-mill television director, which are often relegated to being traffic cops. I want directors who are going to bring a cinematic vision and elevate the material and feel as though they are making a movie and not just another episode of television.
Well, you know, you've got a big circle, right? You've got a big circle floor and there's a big telescope in the middle. Beverly is positioned looking at the base of the telescope as if there was an eyepiece there, she'd be looking through the telescope.
Ah, okay, I see what you're saying. Cool.
It's a big, wide profile.
Cool.
And that's the great thing about Michael Reimer and many of the directors that we had, is that they felt as though they were making a small movie, and we really empowered them with that ability to elevate, bring your ideas, challenge us on story, make things better, but most importantly, make it emotional and make it cinematic, because we are in a visual medium, and it is very important to me as a storyteller to have a significance of cinematic impact.
First position, line up.
Pretty much from when we start to shoot, there's a bit of a relaxation and a sigh that, okay, we're on our way. We've got the 8 days, they've been scheduled. 2 and 2 does not make 4 when you're shooting as well. There's always a Murphy's Law, something's going to happen, but that's normal. Anybody that makes something is going to find that.
Hold the movement behind me, I'm seeing reflections, guys. And set. Action.
But really the critical part is with Brian and his team, and when they're satisfied in the final delivery of that final page. And it could be, and often does happen in television and in film, that morning of the shooting. And then are the actors, can they be prepared? Each one of our actors has their own special way of preparing, and that takes time.
You know, the scenes are just usually, although the first scene was without dialogue on my part, but it was so well written or described that it's not difficult. And the hard thing would be doing the same thing over and over and over again, you know. So having a character that has pretty big swings keeps it alive.
And action.
It's all yours, Freddie.
You want to talk to your admirer. We'll have to send him an invitation.
And then for me, in my mind, how I approach that set would be, well, I'm going to say that is south, and so that when you see hard sun come into the set, it's always going to be from this side, and this will be the more north light ambient side.
Jim Hawkinson is really exercising a meditation on darkness versus light with this show that goes right to the heart of Mads Mikkelsen's interpretation of Hannibal Lecter as the fallen angel. He sees him not as a cannibal psychiatrist, but as the devil who is enamored with man and living out his temptations in concert with Will Graham.
Line it up.
Mads, could we see you take your step in? Yeah, we can come.
Off mark.
Stomach. Okay, and camera set.
Okay, and action.
forgot to say the line, so I'm so pleased.
So I think there is a poetry to what Jim Hawkinson does that is symbolic of the story that's happening between Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter, and it is that contrast of darkness and light in everything. It's not so much that it's dark, it's that the frame is surrounded in darkness, and what is light sort of emerges from that darkness, and that is, he's giving this strange sense of hope in this dark world that I think is poetic. He is a poet.
And action.
What it was doing was, I've never seen it do that.
I haven't got my hands free.
Here we go, big chair.
Brian emailed me quite a good couple of months before we started production of the second season and said, key art for season 2, thinking Will in the mask. What do you think? And I wrote back, fantastic, great, you know, that sounds great. So once that was decided, I guess, then that set the need to arrive at a point when I was in the mask.
I guess those kind of things are what you call trailer moments, where you know, like when you're shooting a movie and you go, okay, this is a trailer moment, you know, and certainly a shot of Will Graham being lowered out of this transport van with this iconographic identifier of Hannibal Lecter. It's by design that he's going to, you know, come into frame in this close-up, and Michael Reimer, the director, was very specific about that.
Good. So just get him off the
I
ramp?
literally just needed some business to finish the shot with. I don't even know if we'll get that far.
Okay, may not even get as far as rolling them out, so we'll do our best. Should we try one? Shoot it?
Yeah, it's just, it becomes about logistics, because I wasn't just in a mask, I was in a straitjacket. So you're at the mercy of other actors and extras kind of moving you around, and obviously you can't do anything.
There you go.
Yeah, so if you kind of somehow maintain me like leaning foot, like tilted foot.
How far does he have to go, boss?
Then otherwise this scrapes on the floor and break, acts as a break. Can you do that? Is it possible to tilt me further back? Yes. Try that.
We should adhere to the logic that we've established with it when it comes to these decriminalizations, and I should strangle
an email? Okay, let me check it.
Yeah, whether I needed to be in that mask, whether Will had to be restrained to that degree, I suppose you could argue the point. I mean, I thought it was important throughout the season to retain the sense that although some of these people would come and talk to him, he was still a threat, always a threat. But the main point was just get him in the mask, you know. Not just because it's iconic and recognizable, but because it really symbolizes his journey towards what we know and what we carry in our heads to be Hannibal. There's the scene when I arrive in the observatory and Lawrence takes me out of the straitjacket. That was written, as I remember, I'm brought in and they unwrap me, and we said, well, this is crazy, and there's no point restraining me all the way in and then just undoing me, you know, with all these people around. So I think, you know, Lawrence shouts everybody out the room.
Leave us alone. Everyone out now!
You know, we tried to make that to kind of find a very positive reason behind that, which is him choosing to trust me and so on. So yeah, it doesn't play much, really. I mean, there's not a lot of me restrained in that way, but I think we probably got everything out of it that we possibly could.
So the Dunlop Observatory is where we shot that, and we shot at the Dunlop Observatory, I believe, in episode 11 of season 1.
That location itself presents its own challenges because, you know, it's this, it's an observatory, you know, so it's this big, round, domed structure, you know, with this massive telescope in it.
The observatory is very cold. It's colder inside than it is outside, and we're shooting in Toronto in winter, so it makes for a very cold shoot, which already gives you kind of an on-edge feeling and different from the studio, which is kept at a more comfortable temperature.
Again, there's like physical challenges of a location like that. It's on the second story. There's no elevator to get the gear up there. Everything's got to be brought up the stairs, and you know, it's echoey. It was very cold. I mean, this whole second season was very cold up there in Toronto. So that presented a lot of challenges.
When we arrived on the shooting day, Francois had built a prosthetic dummy of Beverly Cat's, panes of glass holding it in place with body slice sections that he had sculpted.
Somebody else took care of the plexiglass plates and all this stuff, got all shipped to set, and we literally, hours before we were shooting this, through the night, went in and did the installation. So the panels were there, we were shown how to install the panels, and we actually physically put all our slabs in there, prepped the panels, and lined them up and walked away.
There was a lot of tweaking when we were shooting those plexiglass things because it is like shooting a mirror, and you're dealing with so many different reflections and so forth. And then there was also visual effects elements that we had to get.
Now that doesn't move. It's too big, bulky, and heavy to move. And as part of telling the story, we needed to have it slide apart, slide back together. So we shot all the scenes of it static, and then we shot our plates with their prosthetic glass in place. We did camera moves, one of them wrapping around the glass, one of them sort of pulling back on a more flat-on angle. We shot that with his glass in place as a reference. We also shot it with Beverly standing in position so we would have a more real-looking face and body for her. We proceeded to take lots and lots of photographs of what he had built, and photographs of Beverly as well. Took all that back to our shop and we started building a CG replica of the entire apparatus.
I have to, when I work on it, I have to desaturate it because it grosses me out. Like,
you know what? It's just plastic and paint.
I know, but it's so full on, like especially where it goes through the bone. It's so intense.
And action.
You said you just interpret the evidence. So interpret the evidence.
I don't know, maybe I was a little bit in denial, so I just focused on doing the job at hand that day, but certainly as it was getting closer and closer and closer, I was sad.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a main unit wrap on Etienne. We love you.
I mean, it was definitely bittersweet, you know, it's the most fun I've ever had working as an actor.
That was a real treat for me because, I mean, I had worked to a certain degree with all those guys, more in the first season, of course, because I was out in the world. But I'd had a couple of really nice scenes with Etienne. And knowing then, as we went into season 2, what the fate of the character was going to be, the upside to that was that I got, you know, to really build something with her, sense of what their relationship was, see her do her work so well, and, you know, play the scenes with her. That was a real pleasure for me.
We all got along really well. You know, not just the cast, but the entire crew. And, you know, I was away from home in Toronto, so they obviously became like my second family, and I really love them dearly. So I was sad to leave, but I think because I kept, you know, I didn't even expect to have a season 2, so I was just so happy to be there. And I miss those guys. I still miss them, and any chance I get to see them now, it's always, you know, a lot of fun.
To lose someone that you begin to care about, whether they're real or fiction, if you're doing your job as a storyteller, that character should feel real. So it did feel like a very real loss.